Hello again, guys. What is up? And we are back with another video. We are just going to be talking mainly about, our favorite people in the world, libertarians, right? And there's been some very great things that I have seen from them recently that I'm just going to talk about because I'm running very dry on the content right now. Maybe soon a new war will start and I will have everything I need again for content, right? But also in other news, I had my X account restricted temporarily. I wish I took a screenshot of it right now because Anyways, I guess let's actually continue on and get to what we're actually talking about. So I saw this post from a French libertarian, and already you know that this guy was like cursed twice just from that, because French libertarian, so it's already just absolutely terrible. And he says, "To say qui n'est pas libertarian est social." So I don't know how to say this in French. In fact, can we get Google Translate on here with us?
Tout ce qui n'est pas libertarien est socialiste.
Okay, that might help us out here. But other than that, what they do is put this chart thing here at the bottom, which is really funny because there's almost no way it wasn't made by AI. And let's go through it here. So one of the things that we can pretty clearly see is collectivist. And if you don't know what a collectivist is, it's basically when the state prioritizes the group over, the individual. And you might be confused because isn't each individual also just like together forming a group by being in the country? Well, yes, but let's give an example. It might make it clear. The Soviet policy of collectivization resulted in the seizing of people's farms for the benefit of the collective, which to me wasn't really too smart. But other than that, so according to them, fascists are collectivists, communists are collectivists, Democrats are collectivists, and MAGA are collectivists. Last time I checked, we haven't been seizing any peasants' farms for the greater good. So I would have to be, doubting that. Let's continue. Disarm the population. Okay, this one's a fair one, I guess, and gun owners use it a lot. Fascists, historically, yes, they did take away the gun rights. Same thing with communists. Democrats, they're against guns. Against a lot of them at least. And then MAGA, disarm population. Apparently, there for disarming the population. I wouldn't call myself MAGA, but I'd call myself a Trump supporter. I'd call myself a Republican. And seeing this is just really funny because it's Republicans who are always defending the Second Amendment. Like, yeah, I know you always have those lobbying accounts that are always saying that Republicans are actually against the Second Amendment and whatever because we didn't vote against a ban on 20x scopes for our shotguns. But other than that, I think we've done decently well in the places we control of, keeping guns accessible for everyone. Let's continue. Curtail free speech. Fascists and communists. Yeah, historically, yes, they've done that, so, it's not really a controversial point. Democrats, Republicans, I'm not really sure how much, other than, burning the flag and stuff, which we don't even think, or most of us don't think it should be a crime to do so. That's just dumb to me. Then after that we have state-controlled news media. Oh my gosh, state-controlled news media. Okay, I can hear the sirens going off. But let's see, state-controlled news media, fascists and communists. that is true. Democrats, state-controlled, not really state-controlled. MAGA, not really state-controlled. Usually state-controlled news media implies that it's one party because it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. Like, unless the government has, like, two sets of channels, and whenever one party gets into power, they start just controlling them via the state. It wouldn't make a lot of sense if it was just one, because then you'd see them go from being pro one side this time and then pro the other side the next. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's go next one. Rule by elite. Fascists, yes. Communists, yes. Democrats, yes. MAGA, yes. And then, of course, libertarians, they're against it. No. And I find that really funny, because a lot of models of libertarianism I've seen, and like anarcho-capitalism, tend to devolve into just feudalism, which if you don't know about, you should maybe look up. And so rule by elite is not really, libertarian. It's not really the case, because whenever I think of libertarian, in my opinion, I don't think of liberty of the individual. I think of liberty of multinational corporation to do what they want, because that's just how it is. And let's actually say something here, because a multinational corporation, like, yes, the problem that they can exert more influence and control and do more stuff in the world than individuals, even a group of individuals, is there. Like, I could have, let's say, Amazon, right? If I have Amazon, and then I have a group of people who have the same amount of employees as Amazon does, Amazon is still going to have a lot more power in the world. They're going to be able to do a lot more stuff than however many people there are in that group that, has the same amount of people in it as the amount of employees in Amazon. That shouldn't make, or that shouldn't be too complicated. Another thing I should say here is that libertarians do assume that you should take full responsibility for all of your actions, and I think, yeah, you probably should take responsibility for a lot of your actions, but they also seem to think that those actions should be legal. Like, yeah, you can do them, but you assume the consequences if you do that. Which, I know there's a meme about, like, libertarians using nukes. I know that they are for that, but the problem is that the punishment to someone and, like, how bad what they did doesn't scale perfectly, especially when you get to a large amount like that. Of course, like, a murder can be punished with much more force and strength than something like, I don't know, jaywalking. But that doesn't apply the same when you say commit genocide, because when you commit genocide, like, yeah, they're gonna murder you, you're gonna be executed, but, like, you can get executed for way less. And so if you are a person who is trying to, commit a crime, like, you want to do the most damage possible, you'd be incentivized to go towards the crime that does the most stuff that is within your means of being able to commit a crime. Like, if I have the money necessary to be able to commit genocide, if I have the capital and I have everything necessary for it, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do some just like some murders instead. Yeah, I'll get the same punishment, but the amount of deaths it takes to be executed in both, the amount of deaths you cause to be executed in both, is way different. The unit of pain that you experience, every amount of pain that you experience for, let's say, 10 people dying, is way less, because there's way more people dying, right? And so you can't really measure that. Now, of course, you could say, like, well, what if we just, like, tortured them? But again, like, that has to scale, and you have to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to torture them? How long are we going to torture them? And what defines, the torture as, this length for this thing. Like, what is morally right to justify torture for this type of torture for this amount of time to a person who has committed this crime? And then you'd have to adjust that for all the different factors and circumstances every single time a person does another crime at or above that level, or maybe even below that level. Let's continue though, because I think I've made my point pretty well there. Centralized power in the capital. Fascists, yes. Communists, yes. Democrats, yes. MAGA, yes. Libertarians, no. Libertarians must think they're so cool right now because, you know, they're against everything else. And it doesn't really make sense to me because, like, yeah, we have a government in a capital, and it operates in buildings. That shouldn't really be surprising. So I really don't know. But let's move on by that. Let's move on from that, because I think that's just a really dumb one. That's just like a straw man. Criminalize political opponents. Fascists, yes. Communists, yes. They both historically did that. Democrats, yes, they've done that. In fact, they're planning to do it. If you don't know, in 2028, a lot of what they've been talking about is they plan to get retribution on their enemies, you know, Republicans, if they win 2028. It's gonna be bad, right? But yeah. And then MAGA also wants to criminalize political opponents. The problem with that is, well, we're gonna kind of have to, because if we don't do it, the other side's gonna do it, and if the other side does it, then we're cooked, right? And so, I mean, libertarians would argue that we should limit the power of the government to prevent the Democrats from doing that to us. But what's stopping Democrats from just, you know, giving it back? Because, I mean, if you're assuming that we can limit the government's power, our Republicans are very weak in the government right now, actually. They have the majorities, but their majorities are very slim, and a lot of the people in them don't like the party. Some of them don't even like Trump. But I guess now we'll just have the ability to limit the government's power for whatever reason, and Democrats won't vote against it and filibuster it into infinity. Let's see. Free market capitalism. Fascists, no. Communists, no. Democrats, no. MAGA, no. Libertarians, no. Okay. Well, yeah. What about it? Free market capitalism isn't the way to go. I like how this person just like puts a lot of these things here. Like, these memes are not meant to spread their ideology. They're meant to be for libertarians, because it's not like they're trying to actually pitch like generally bad things. They're just saying like, oh, collectivist free market capitalism, like they know what's inherently good and what's inherently bad, when most people probably don't agree with that. And free market capitalism is something that, I mean, yeah, capitalism is the greatest thing for, you know, growing the world, like, and expanding it. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be perfectly free market capitalist. I think that the state has some kind of obligation to benefit its people in some way, and it has some kind of effort that it should take to prioritize its own people over other countries. This means in things like trade deals, where, I mean, really quick, we're going to go off on another thing here. Libertarians think that each country should more so just specialize in what they are good at, and then from there they can, you know, import everything else. And because that, like, they don't think the trade deficit is an issue. They think that every country would ideally have a big trade deficit, because each one is producing a different thing. The problem with that is not every country can do that, obviously. And also, I mean, there are countries that have gotten so large that America, for example, America doesn't need to do that. I mean, maybe in like the 1700s with the Dutch, who would, set ships full of spices on fire to prevent oversupply, which is a true thing they did, and imported all of their food. Maybe that would be how libertarians envision it, but America has enough room for more than just a few things, and I think, that should be obvious, but I guess to libertarians, it isn't. And I think that, we should probably want to export more. There's nothing keeping us back from exporting more. It's not that they were bad at exporting it. And the truth is that when libertarians say, oh, some places are better at making things than others, it's usually not because of, conditions, let's say for farming. In some places, it's definitely more easy to make coca beans in the places that can make that should definitely be the ones making it, right? But if we manufacture something like sheet metal, right? If we're manufacturing sheet metal, the place that does it the best, it's not going to be regional. It's not going to be based on the climate or anything. It's going to be based on which company and which country can do it with less labor laws and less stuff to boost up the price, right? And so it's not about companies making stuff better as it is as just companies or countries, not paying wages that are as good as in other places. We've seen this in Europe, where the minimum wage on average tends to be a bit higher than the US, and they have less manufacturing and less startups than the US. US has more, but China has a ton of it because of their weak labor regulations. Now, I'm not advocating for weak labor regulations at all. I'm just saying that if Europe got rid of all their labor regulations, went down to the China level, and China adopted all the European ones, the industrialization of Europe would be huge. You would see a ton of it, right? Or maybe not. Perhaps not, because, wages may not just move down like that. But other than that, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms I don't feel like talking about. Let's continue. Minimal government. Yep, the drill. All of them know except libertarians. Who care? Why would we want minimal government? It's just dumb. There's a lot of things that probably should be regulated at some level because, that's just been standard human nature. There's a lot of things that have to be regulated in some kind, and minimal government. Just get government out of everything. It's, to me, just so dumb. But yeah, this video has been surprisingly long. I didn't think it'd be this much time. Let's actually, move on and go to the outro. Okay, so we're back here. There's another flaw with that chart. It was saying Nazi Germany was all those things, but I don't really care to go back and, include that in this. I'm just here to say, that wasn't the greatest video I've made, but it wasn't the worst. Yeah. So, I'll see you around later.